Yeah.
Rolling? Good? Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Amwell Township Planning Board regular meeting on September 8th, 2021. If we could all stand for salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a regularly scheduled meeting pursuant to the annual meeting notice as published in the January 21st, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Hunterdon County Democrat, filed in the Township's clerk office, and posted on the bulletin board and Township website on September 1st, 2021. I might not go in order here. Greg Cicilio, I'm not saying that right, Ciccio?
Close enough.
Sorry. Mike Mills.
Here.
Natalie Nelson.
Here.
Tamara Lee.
Here.
Marnie Stetson.
Here.
Jackson Mills.
Jackson Mills?
I mean, I like that last name better, easier to pronounce. But it doesn't have that Germanic EI, but yes.
I'm looking
present.
over here, excuse me. Rick Wolf.
I'm here.
And I am here. Okay. Review of the agenda. We have an application in front of us tonight, but Yolanta, the attorney, is trying to get here and is having detour after detour trying to get here from work. So she's running a few minutes late. So we might shuffle things around just, if she doesn't show up before we're ready for your guys' application, we might have to just shuffle you back a couple of minutes just waiting for her, please. Okay, just bear with us. She's dealing with the storm damage. Can I get a motion to open the meeting to the public for items not on the agenda, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's open to the public. Anybody have anything to say, anything that's not on the agenda? Francis?
Francis Gavigan, 123 Wartsville Road, Ringhose, New Jersey. I, along with a lot of people, both from West Amwell and East Amwell, were at the West Amwell meeting on the change in zoning. I videotaped the entire thing. It's downloaded and it'll be available on my YouTube channel shortly. So if you want to study it, the objections and the arguments and things like that, it's available. It was interesting to learn that the attorney that initiated the request is a big shot in the marijuana area, as is the planner who did all the plans. You know, everybody's just taking a wait and see, but since the pot manufacturing place on 22 got fined by the DEP, it'll be important for East Amwell to pay attention should such an event occur. Booze, mini golf, ice cream, and marijuana along Route 31. Just wanted to let you know not only that it had happened, it was a done deal, but that if you want to see bad videoing, it is available. And there were a couple people from East Amwell, including Township Committee person Chris Sobieski, who was there and spoke with some of the East Amwell residents that were very concerned and maintained the appropriate professionalism that you need to when you're an elected official. But, you know, there were no fireworks. There was frustration, but it's coming. I don't know what the DNR Greenway, the watershed folks, whatever, but parts of that land are in the Sourlands. And people's wells, if it ended up having something that used a lot of water, they could be going down to the corner of Linvale and 31 and lining up with Mr. Reader's old business, Wellmaster, because they could have a problem. That's it.
Thanks, Francis. Appreciate it.
Oh, one quick other thing. The FEMA has announced and opened. It opens on October 28th for 2022 grants for for all 50 states, municipalities. There's 20 folks who can go under the state one, should you so wish, for flooding and infrastructure hardening and things like that. It's somewhat under the umbrella of flood protection. So your county, your municipality has to be on a certain list. I checked, we are. I sat through the first of a set of presentations, and they are available online should you be so interested. And I think it would be really valuable for people either affected or impacted, and also certainly the farmers, Dave, to get on board, get the county on board, and do public-private partnerships like we've done before to get grants written and get our slice of the pie. It opens September 28th and it closes in January, but since it would be underneath probably a master application with New Jersey, it would need to be done earlier than that. And there are all sorts of rules for your plans, the scoring, the impact. And I think we've certainly demonstrated a need for flood mitigation, management, and hardening here in East Amwell. That's it.
Thanks again, Francis. Appreciate your efforts. Anybody else in the public like to speak on about anything not on the agenda? Can I get a motion to close to the public, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the August minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions, changes, corrections? Okay. There's no resolutions. So let's just bump forward here a little bit until hopefully Ilana, you didn't get any update
No.
from her, did you?
No. We're still on the road.
Okay. There's no new business underneath unfinished business. Tam, any updates on the?
Yeah, go through that real quickly.
Yeah, please.
The farm map is now functional in that they are collecting, there's a website, and they're collecting information from farmers, whoever wants to be on the map. Of course, shortly after that became functional, we had a storm, so I think people are a little preoccupied right now. We've started talking about deer control. We've done some research on what our options are, what other towns have done, what's been successful or how successful, and things like that. I did an Oprah request to DEP to try to find out how many depredation permits have been issued for East Amwell. So we just have that information. It'll be useful to know. And the Environmental Commission is talking about, what they can do to help with deer control. We've started talking with the farmers a little bit. We also have to talk with the landowners and Sauerland Conservancy and obviously eventually the Township Committee, but we've collected the information and now we're trying to figure out what our best option is. So that's in progress. Parks and Rec is still working on developing some options for a pop-up market so that we can try that out. We had a request to reevaluate our ordinances as they relate to food trucks, because we were told some farms might like to be able to bring a food truck there, and our current ordinance won't allow them to do that. So I took a quick look at it, and then I passed it on to the Board of Health, because they're one of the entities that have to approve these things. They're taking a look at our ordinance to see if there's any changes we can make to make that a little easier. And that's about it for the farm project.
Okay.
I mean, we're outreach, I guess that's really under the work sessions. Not much has happened on that because we have our next work session meeting to finish working on the outreach on the 29th.
Okay.
So we haven't had that yet, so, okay.
Okay. Master plan, anything on that? Any updates?
Well, yeah, I mean, Elena's been doing, her thing on the
Yep.
master plan. I'll let you talk about that in just a second. She's passed on some work to the subcommittee, things that she wants to talk with the Ringo's advisory committee about, and we gave her some comments on that. I'd actually like to bring that to the planning board and talk with the planning board about the same issues. So maybe we can talk about when we can put that on an agenda, because that'll be helpful. One thing that's come up is, although we can exchange emails and phone calls with Elena, we really can't have meetings with her to talk out ideas, because we didn't approve the line item in her proposal for meetings.
Okay.
So we wanted to ask if there was any money in the budget, maybe, $1,000, $1,500.
Okay.
So that the subcommittee can meet with Elena and really start fleshing out some ideas. But Elena, do you want to tell them what you've been doing? Because you've been getting a lot of
Yeah,
work
sure.
done.
So we completed our site visit. My associate McKinley Mertz and I will be working on updating the Ringos and the Highway Master Plan element. We did our site visit the end of July. Took a lot of pictures, saw a lot of sites. We are working on existing conditions and have begun drafting the plan. And we will, once we have, a pretty decent draft put together, we will send it to the subcommittee for initial review and look over, and probably then have a meeting with the subcommittee to discuss, brainstorm some ideas, see if there's anything the subcommittee has thought of that we missed, or vice versa, just to kind of touch base on the general scope and the breadth of the whole master plan element.
Great, thank you.
So, I don't know where we can get an answer about the budget, so that maybe we can have some meetings. Rick, is there any change there? In the budget anywhere?
You mean, did we find a pot of money somewhere?
Something like that, yeah.
Not yet, we're
The press
looking.
isn't open yet?
We're looking. Look, as well as I do, the last budget was in the hole.
Right,
They took money out of our capital improvements to plug that hole.
yeah. Did we get federal money?
We have
There was
federal
talk
money.
about federal money and then moving things around,
Federal money can only be used for certain purposes, like
Right.
roads.
right?
As far as I know, there's nothing out that allows you to use it for your master plan.
No, but if you use it for roads, is there money for roads that can be moved somewhere else?
Well, I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow night at the township committee meeting, and I don't wanna start that preview here. I'll discuss it at tomorrow night's township committee
fine.
meeting, my thoughts as to what roads that money should go to work on.
Okay, okay. So we may or may not have to just do it all through email?
Yeah, so we'll have to
Okay.
stumble through it for the time being.
Okay.
Work sessions, everything's good with that?
Yeah, I
Set up,
mean, the last meeting, we set up the next work session for the 29th, so nothing has really happened on the work session front, because we haven't had that meeting
Yeah.
yet.
Okay. Okay. All right, thanks, Tam and Lana, appreciate it. Are you ready for this application?
Absolutely.
All right.
I apologize for my late arrival. I'm sorry.
You can't get there from here, can you?
It was hard to get here. There's a lot of detours.
And I have to recuse myself, because this potentially involves a D variance.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go into the small conference room, if somebody can just
Yep.
let me know when we're done.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, thanks, Rick. I wasn't thinking about that. So we still have 1, 2, 3. We have enough 7, correct?
Yes.
6, yeah. So everybody is, if we get to a vote, everybody's voting, even alternates,
Yes.
because we're 7.
You good with that? Okay, tonight, new business applications, John and Lisa Hawkins, Block 30, Lot 4, Saddle Mountain District, Certificate of Nonconformity. You guys want to come on up, have a seat, and Yolanda will swear you in? How you doing, Lisa? Good to see you again.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, I guess it is at this point. Erica Edwards Esquire here tonight on behalf of John and Lisa Hawkins. Address, subject property is 121 Rocktown Road, Block 30, Lot 4, and Lot 4, qualifier 0185. Here tonight seeking in the first instance a certificate of nonconformity to confirm that our farm has been in continual uninterrupted use since at least 2003, when there was an amendment to the zoning ordinance that increased the maximum or the minimum lot size in the Sauerland Mountain zoning district to 30 acres for a farm. But indeed, we believe that based on the aerial photography that we have provided as an exhibit to our application, that in fact our agricultural use, our farm use, predates the zoning ordinance generally. So that is the reason that we are here tonight. We have two witnesses. We have Mrs. Hawkins, who is sitting to my right. Mr. Hawkins is not with us this evening, and Mrs. Hawkins will explain why that is. And then we have a second fact witness, Mr. William Halloran, who is a property owner within 200 feet. He is at 106 Rocktown Road.
Okay.
So we will swear Mrs. Hawkins. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give with regard to this application will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And can you please state your full name for the record?
Lisa Hawkins.
Thank you. And if you could please, ladies, speak into the microphone so that... Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, we're
Yes.
ready? Okay, very good. So, Mrs. Hawkins, would you please state and spell your full name for the record, please?
My name is Lisa Hawkins, Lisa Hawkins.
And what is your residential address here in the township?
Our farm is located at 121 Rocktown Road in Ringgoes, New Jersey.
Okay, and is that the property that is the subject of tonight's application before the planning board?
Yes, that's our farm.
How long have you owned and lived at the farm?
Almost 15 years. We purchased it in 2006.
And how many acres is the farm?
A little more than 25 acres.
Is the property farm assessed?
Yes,
And has that been for the entire time that you have owned it?
yes,
Have you farmed the property the entire time that you have owned it?
yes,
Okay. So your use of the property as a farm has been continuous and uninterrupted since you purchased the property in 2006?
yes.
Okay. And what type of farming have you undertaken there on the farm?
So we formerly owned Unionville Vineyards, and in such we had planted a vineyard on the farm and the vineyard still exists, and we continue to farm the grapes. And in addition, on other parts of the agricultural lots, we have had different crops formed by ourselves at some points and also by local farmers, corn, hay, soybeans, that type of thing.
Who else lives at the farm with you?
My husband, John Hawkins, and since you mentioned it, I'll just tell the board that he would want to be here tonight, but he's actually been suffering some health problems, and he's recovering from major surgery, so I'm speaking for us both tonight.
Is it true that you are in the process of selling the farm?
It is.
Okay. And what prompted that, if I may ask?
Again, unforeseen health issues have led us to believe we need to be closer to our family, so we're leaving the state and moving closer to our family.
Is that the reason that you have not contemplated purchasing additional acreage from an adjacent farm to make your farm lot conform to the 30-acre minimum?
Well, this all happened rather unexpectedly and much more quickly than we anticipated, so that was not really an option that we considered.
Okay. We both read the planner's report, and she asked specifically
Yeah.
about that, so I want to make sure that we clear about why we have not contemplated that, because that simply wasn't possible. What is the relief that you're seeking from the board this evening?
We are looking for confirmation that agriculture in general, and specifically farm use, is permitted by right on our property, on our farm, and that we would be able to include stabling horses for personal use, not commercial use, on the 2 existing barns on the property, essentially as pets. But we would like that to be included in the consideration.
Okay. How many horses are you proposing be permitted on the property for the personal use of the residents?
Up to 7.
Is your desire to do that, is that specific to the parties who are currently contemplating purchasing the farm?
Well, yes and no. The parties currently contemplating that are interested in that, but what we've found since we have put the farm on the market is most of the interest in the farm, because of the way it's laid out with the paddocks, with the barns in place, it's particularly attractive to people who have horses for their personal use. It's not giant, but it's very nice for personal equine pursuits.
Are you proposing that any other activity be permitted to be undertaken on the farm that's not currently being undertaken, other than the stabling of up to 7 horses?
No.
When you initially considered this farm for your own purchase, how were the prior owners of the farm utilizing it?
They actually were raising alpacas on the farm.
Is that all they were doing?
I think they also had another local farmer farming the back fields with crops as well.
Okay. Where were the prior owners keeping their alpacas?
They were kept in both barns, both of the existing barns when we saw the property.
Okay. So the prior owners were utilizing both the what we call the original frame barn and the pole barn, correct?
Yes, they built the pole barn and were using both of them for alpacas
Okay.
at the time that we purchased it.
And what is the date of the permit to construct that second barn? Do you know when that permit was issued?
I don't. I would guesstimate around 2000.
So the prior owners were selling alpacas and alpaca-related products for profit to the public when you purchased the farm?
That is what they indicated to us, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, when did that use begin? I know that was what was happening when you were talking to them about purchasing the property that you ultimately did in 2006. To your knowledge, when did that alpaca commercial operation begin?
To the best of my knowledge, just from the conversations, thinking back a long time ago, and the documentation that they provided us, it seemed that they purchased the farm for the purpose of establishing an alpaca farm.
Isn't it true that we have documentation in our file that was the result of an OPA request to the township that confirms that in fact that permit was issued in 1999 and that they were in fact running that commercial operation from the time they purchased the property?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So when you contemplated the purchase of the farm, did you seek confirmation from the existing owners, from the prior owners, that is, that you would be permitted to continue to utilize the property as a farm?
We did. During the customary due diligence period where the attorneys did the review, that was a question that came up because we were interested in continuing farming type of activities on the property, and their attorney presented to our attorney a document that was from the I believe the attorney for the East Amwell Township at the time, interpreting the ordinance to read or to confirm, I guess, that farming activity could be transferred to any new purchaser.
And in fact, we do have a copy of that letter from 1999. It was in fact written by what it appears to be the planning board attorney in 1999. The letter's dated August 9th, 1999, by Thomas Norman Esquire at the request of the planning board chairman at that time. And we're prepared to introduce that letter. It's come right out of the township's files. It was, again, part of the results of that OPA request that we made to the township. So we do have that letter with us today. Would you like us to read that letter into the record?
You can enter it as an exhibit. Have the board members had an opportunity to see this letter? I think everybody's seen it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In purchasing the farm, when you purchased it in 2006, did you rely on that letter, specifically the opinion of that attorney, in terms of making your decision to purchase the farm?
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
Would you have purchased the farm had you not been able to get that assurance that that letter represented?
No, because, I mean, it's a farm, and our intention was to continue to live on a farm.
What physical changes to the farm have you made since you purchased the property?
So we added a deck and pergola that was permitted by the township, and then we did add fencing around the grapes when we planted the vineyard to protect them from the deer. Because everybody loves grapes.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Any other changes that you made?
No.
Okay. And is it your understanding that the use of this property, your property as a farm, goes back at least to the 1930s based on the aerial photography that we have obtained and provided?
Yes, and we think it's even longer than that. Looks like it's been a farm for a long time.
That's all I have for right now for Mrs. Hawkins.
Okay, thank you. Do we want Elena to speak on her report?
Sure.
Elena, would you like to go through your report and your site visit and tell everybody
Yes, sure.
verbally? We all have it written, but would you just briefly go over
Yeah,
your
sure.
thoughts? And
Yeah, that's fine. So I did do a site visit to the property. It is a really well-maintained farm. All of the structures are extremely well-maintained. The pastures are still intact. There are fences up that, connect to the barns. There is a wine field, and they're behind the row of trees that are about halfway in the middle of the property. There is another field back there that is, currently in an active agricultural operation. And so part of the reason I wanted to do the site visit was because the submitted survey is from 1999. And so I just wanted to go out and field check and verify to make sure that, you kind of eyeball and see what's changed between 1999 and now 2021, because the survey is over 20 years old at this point. And so within my report, it's my experience that receiving a certificate of nonconformity can be difficult. You have to meet specific proofs that show whether or not, the farm has been in continuous operation. I wasn't entirely sure if, aerial photography would be enough, but that's, ultimately up to the board to determine. And so, in addition to the certificate of conformity, should the board not grant that certificate, then the applicant would need to seek D3 conditional use variance approval, since farms with farm buildings are permitted in the Sourland Mountain Zone on 30-acre lots. based upon the ordinance. And so in doing my review, I reviewed it for both the certificate of nonconformity and also as the D3 conditional use variance, because they both somewhat go hand in hand. And so within my report, I do a summary of the master plan and the Sauerland Mountain Zone. And also during my site visit, the property is surrounded by other farms. I did a little bit of research into the adjacent lots in the area, and the property is surrounded by 2 other preserve farms. Both of those farms are oversized for the zone. The reason why in my report I asked if whether it was ever contemplated purchasing adjacent land is because there is case law that if you can make your lot conforming, you should probably try to make your lot conforming. I've seen other zoning boards use that rule to have the applicant, formally ask their neighbors in a letter to see if they would be interested in selling their property in order to bring their lot size up to the minimum lot size. But ultimately it's up to the board's discretion, and I would probably turn to Yolanta for, in light of that.
Well, this is a condition of a conditional use. It's not your typical bulk variance situation. We're not talking about a bulk variance here. We're talking about a condition of a conditional use. And if this applicant requires a conditional use variance, it is a heavier lift than a bulk variance.
And so I think that pretty much covers my report. I just had a question about the horses and whether because of the water quality of the Sauerland Mountains and the watershed, whether what types of manure management would be used, and if it would be in accordance with the SADC best management practices. Is that known at this point?
I'll interject here. I don't know that that the owner applicant knows that. I know that to an extent from speaking with the attorney for the parties who are interested in purchasing the farm, and my understanding is they are going to undertake probably all of the above, all of those practices. They are people with a lot of experience with animals. She's a veterinarian. So they're very attuned to what's appropriate and not. And so my understanding from speaking with their attorney is that they're going to be probably trying to follow best practices, even though the farm is not certified as a commercial farm by
Right.
By the county, but they are interested in they own a farm now. So they are, educated on farm practices. So I'm telling you as much as I know.
That's fine. I appreciate that. And then that's pretty much, most of my concerns in my report.
Questions? Anybody?
Just one clarification. So, you're looking for this certification to say that horses as well as crops can continue? Horses for personal use?
Correct.
And crops, obviously, for sale?
Right, it's a farm, and certainly what they're doing now should be permitted to continue. That they should be able to, we seek permission to have the new owner, whoever that is, whether it's this party that's currently interested or another, be permitted to have horses for personal use, because it seems to, as long as it's for personal use, it seems to be a logical, they're like pets. They're just too big to bring in the house.
Right.
Arguably, and if you take to heart the planning board attorney's letter dated from 1999, any use of that property as for agricultural purposes, for farming, should be permitted, you know, at some point, if there's an expansion of the, I believe what they talk about in the letter is an expansion of the physical operation into areas that aren't currently being farmed, then maybe that is something to consider as an expansion. But otherwise, if the farm operation is not expanding physically, we would seek to have the flexibility to allow a new owner to undertake any kind of farming operation and to have horses for personal use. Again, they're pets.
Right. I'm focusing on the horses because horses on the mountain can be a problem because our aquifer is kind of fragile. How many horses, I know you want up to 7 horses, how many horses are there now? Do you?
None.
There are
Oh,
no
so
horses.
you
None.
haven't had horses there?
No.
Okay, but the stables have been there.
The previous owners had alpacas. We haven't had horses.
You haven't had any horses? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm just looking for some reassurance that that waste is going to be managed. Obviously, it's not going through a septic field.
Certainly, a condition of approval could be very specific about how it should be managed.
Okay,
I would recommend that.
yeah. I'm more concerned about that than about the lot size. I mean, I think it's obvious, certainly from the 2002 and the 2007 aerials, that this was a farm when the ordinance was amended, and that's really the key. It doesn't have to be a farm, you know, back to the 50s, but it probably was. But it's what was happening on this property when the ordinance
In
was amended, and I
2000.
think it's pretty obvious that was a farm.
No, I wasn't
So-
sure if you got it in your packet.
So, I'm okay with that, but I would like to know that, you know, the horse's product is going to be managed, so.
Understood, and I think that, I mean, for what it's worth, I think that's perfectly appropriate for you know, if a condition of any approval, that would be granted.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else have questions? I have a question. If we grant the application for the non-conforming, can we, in there, put a number limit on the amount of horses, number one, and address the manure maintenance? And the other thing that Elena recommended was that when the new people, whoever it might be, when they get a survey done, which I think 99% of the banks today want a survey done of the property, if that would be entered into the file so that we have an updated, you know, current, you know, with the new buildings and fences and what have you on it. I think would make
Yeah.
Elena happy.
That would make me happy.
I mean, effectively, what we're doing is we're describing what the use is that
Exactly.
we are agreeing is a continuing
Is
use. So
continuing
we can
use.
be as detailed in that description
Yes.
as we need to be.
Okay,
But we
I
don't
do
want
have
to
a
forget, we
question.
have to open to the public.
yeah, yeah.
I do have a question. How many acres of pasture is there currently? Any idea?
You mean agricultural
Well,
fields?
for horses, like how much space can those 7 horses utilize currently?
I guess I would estimate it's about 10 acres, 10
I
or
would
12
say
acres.
it's big. And then,
Okay.
and then the hayfield behind the one
Is
hedgerow
that's
is
another,
probably another 10
Yeah.
acres. So somebody feasibly could,
It
you know,
seems-
put fencing up and have another
Yeah.
10 acres to, the only thing I don't know is is there regulations from the state about how many
Horses
horses
per
can
acre?
occupy?
Yeah, they're definitely way below. I mean, the farm I'm at is 16 acres and it has 20 stalls.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and we only had about 4 acres of pasture
yeah.
with
They
15
have-
horses. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Yeah, no, they-
setting a limit is probably not advisable.
Yeah.
You know, if they're gonna wanna expand something. And I know that 7 acres at 7 horses, even on 3 acres, how is that gonna really impact the aquifer?
Yeah.
Well, I would prefer to see a limit, because this is deliberation, but, you know, the aquifer on the mountain it's not your typical aquifer. It exists in the cracks of the rock. It's not like there's a layer of
Yeah.
sandy geology where all the water's sitting, and you don't have to, I mean, I have a great well. My next door neighbor, their well's gonna go dry every time we have a dry summer. I mean, because it's all in the cracks. So depending on what the geology looks like under that site, it could very, very easily affect the aquifer. It's not your typical aquifer. So I would like to see, if they're offering a limit on 7, I'd like to take that. That's just me.
Should we open to the public?
Sure, sure.
Can I get a motion to open to the public?
Anybody? Make a motion?
Second, all in favor? Aye. Anybody from the public like to speak on this matter? Francis?
Francis Gagnon, hi Mrs. Hawkins.
Hi, Fran,
I'm
how are you?
from the Bridges.
I do, yeah.
I've lived here since '95. I am familiar with the property and what they've done to improve it. And also recall the camelids, the alpacas being there, and they were not 7. What, if you go down Manners Road where the alpacas are, which are about that high, you know, it looks like they've seeded alpacas. Well, whatever. Alpacas are bigger, so the concentration of animals that were there before the Hawkins bought it, consuming water, was at least that of 7 horses. Now, there are best management practices for horses, and if they have 7 horses, then they meet the threshold, or their new buyers would meet the threshold of having to have a written manure management plan. What a lot of farms in the area do is they get a dumpster and they put the poop in the dumpster, especially if it's shavings, which can sour the soil, and away it goes to be somebody else's joy and problem. If they do it naturally, organically, it becomes a prize. I've bedded my horses on peat moss, and I've gotten great compliments by Alvara at the vineyard for the manure that I gave him, because I rotate it and stock it, and how great the vines are going, and all of that stuff. It's consistent with the area, it's consistent with the use. It is a lovely home, and there's, you know, it's next to a property, I believe, that has a lot of cows and alpacas or something or other back there. So it's a no big whoop, you know, and with the number of acres that they have, you know, the people may want, horse people acquire the number of horses plus 1 based on the number of stalls. I don't know how many stalls they would have in that barn or whatever. Or they can live out in run-in sheds. But 7 is a very reasonable number. With a property that size, I could see 10 or more living comfortably and being able, especially if they took the hayfield and they grazed it, what did they figure, Dave? About an acre, acre and a half per horse or something. They got 23. This is a no, you know, this is a no-brainer. We're losing a valuable member of the community.
Thank you.
And give my best to Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you.
Your vines look lovely, and we should welcome another veterinarian to the area, especially one that does horses, because they're likely to enhance the ability of farms and horse farms in the area to get a large animal vet to service them. Once Hopewell vets stop doing large animals, you know, it's catch as catch can. And we're pretty much reliant on Oliver, and he's a great guy, but he's not spring chicken either. Fortunately, he fell into the garden and broke his ankle. Anyway, I don't want to go on. There are ways. They could have a manure management plan. There are certainly enough horse people around that can help you, and I know Republic has dumpsters on another horse property with more than 7 in the valley, and their manure just goes in the dumpster, and they don't have to worry about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. Would anybody else from the public like to speak?
Arthur Riley, Rich Riley, 126 Rocktown. I live diagonal from Mrs. Hawkins. And we've been there 6 years, 2 little girls. My family has a farm over on Wartsville with a bunch of horses, and we would like to welcome horses to Rocktown. So I'm with everybody with the manure management, but if they're a veterinarian, they know what they're doing. So,
Yeah, gonna come hand in hand, I have a feeling.
yeah, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Can I get a motion to close to the public, please?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any more questions from the board to?
Yeah, so you have experience with horses too, right?
No.
A little bit, no?
I like riding them.
Well, from what I'm hearing, I'm a little confused if there should be a limit on the horses or if there shouldn't. Do we kind of all have a consensus there, whether there should be or not, depending on what was just said?
I'm not sure we do. I mean, Mike's had his expressed an opinion, I've expressed an opinion, so, I mean, everybody should probably express an opinion.
I wouldn't, I've never raised horses.
In the thoughts, where they wanted to set a limit on, you had to have so many acres to have. So if you go back in your planning board records, there was discussion about that went away rather quickly.
I don't know what you're talking about, but my concern is, I know too many people on the mountain whose wells have failed. For one, oftentimes because they're too shallow or something's happened, they haven't been able to get another one. I know somebody on 100 acres, they had 3 wells, they failed. They could not get another well on 100 acres because they just couldn't find a crack.
Before we have any kind of discussion
We
or
need to have a
deliberation,
motion.
do you have another witness that you'd like to present?
We do have another witness. We have a property owner within 200 feet, and I was just, as certain members of the public were offering their thoughts on it, I was contemplating whether we should call him or allow him to simply express his support during the public comments, whichever the board would prefer. I don't want to derail the proceeding that's underway, so.
He'd have to be sworn in now, correct?
It's up to you, because if he were to give testimony, he'd have to be sworn. If he's just making commentary and opinion, obviously he doesn't need to be sworn for that. So it depends if you would like for that testimony to be in the record. He would have to be sworn and be a witness.
We will do that. His testimony will be very brief,
Okay.
but we would like to swear him in.
Perfect.
Okay.
Come on up, Bill.
Can go?
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Halloran. How are you?
Good evening.
Would you
evening, everyone.
please provide, state and spell your name for the record for the board?
It's William Halloran, H-A-L-L-O-R-A-N.
Okay, and please raise your right hand. Do you swear, Mr. Halloran, that the testimony that you're about to give this evening with regard to this application will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Halloran, would you please tell the board where you reside?
I reside at 106 Rocktown Road.
Okay. And in fact, did you receive a notice by certified mail of this hearing tonight?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you are within, property owner within 200 feet. And how long have you personally lived at that address?
I grew up on that property since 1965, and I still reside there today.
Very good. So you have, you're a lifer, so to speak, in Hunterdon County, and
So
in
to
East
speak.
Amwell Township in particular. I describe myself the same way. I am likewise, although not in East Amwell Township. So you have witnessed or been a witness to what has gone on the property, the subject property, since you were able to take note of those things shortly after 65.
That's correct.
Okay. And what has been your observation, or maybe I should ask it this way, has it been your observation that that agricultural use, and in particular farming, a farm use, has been underway on that property since as far back as you can personally remember?
As far as I can remember, it has always been a farm. at 121 Rocktown Road.
Okay. And would you please provide your perspective on the current use that is underway there, and how in particular you feel about continuation of farming use on that property and the addition of horses for the personal use of the residents?
I actually would prefer that it continues farming operations. I enjoy the grapes. Horses would be a good addition to the property. We'll be sorry to lose the good neighbors, John and Lisa Hawkins, but it sounds like the next people will be an asset to the community, hopefully, and I look forward to welcoming them then.
Okay, very good. We offer him as, for any questions that the board has.
Anyway.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Howland.
Good to see you as well,
Appreciate your
Bill.
help. That concludes our testimony for the evening.
Board, comments, questions, what are we gonna?
Well, I think,
Yeah,
you raised an issue, so.
Yeah, I'm just confused on where the amount of horses affects the aquifer there. Is it the manure, or is it the use of water?
No, horses generate 6 times the effluent that people do.
Mhm.
And human effluent goes through a septic system.
Okay.
Horse manure doesn't.
So I think we talked about having a manure disposal requirement, I guess, in whatever proposal we put through with this. Would a rigorous enough definition of that in whatever we grant be enough to satisfy leaving out the horse restriction, or would you still want an upper limit there?
They've offered it, so I don't,
Okay.
I
don't know why we would not take it.
I have one reservation, and it might not be specific to this application, but sort of the sort of parallel track of people that find themselves before us and get one whole set of strictures on their use of their property, and people that don't happen to come before the planning board because they're not selling their property or they're not changing. I mean, I feel like if you want to say there's only 7 horses on a 25-acre property in the Sourlands, like, why doesn't that apply to everyone and not just someone that happens to end up before us? And that is probably a much larger discussion than this particular thing, but it's something that
Definitely.
has been on my mind because of recent applications.
Yeah, first, I don't know what the regs are for horse. There are special regs for horses on the mountain, aren't there?
On the mountain, no.
No.
There are
Okay.
not.
No, there aren't any, there's no ordinance saying what East Amwell's rules are for how many horses per acre.
Okay.
And in my review of the ordinance, I have not seen that anywhere
I
in
haven't either.
the
I've been
book.
checking.
But I do know that the State Agriculture Development Committee, they have agricultural best management practices for manure management and also for turnout of horses and how much it's assessed on a case-by-case basis, I believe, through the state. So I'm not entirely sure how many horses you can have. I do know the general rule of thumb with horses that you're supposed to have a couple different pastures to give the pasture time to rest, if you will, to recover, so you don't end up with dust and nuisances amongst neighbors on a windy day or anything like that. And I do know that one of the board members did ask the question about, how much is pastured. When I was out on a site visit, I don't know if you guys can see me, when you drive up the driveway, the entire area looking to the right of the property is all pastured in, and it's even going back to this pole barn, kind of extends around to the line of trees too. So I believe this whole area is like a big pasture. I'm not sure how many acres it is, which is why I wanted an updated survey to kind of tune into exactly, how much space is being used for what operation loosely. But I do think that it would be I think the property could handle 7, but I'm not sure what the maximum number would be because I'm not familiar enough with that.
But to respond to you, Marnie, I think that my point is, I would put restrictions on everybody with respect to horses on the mountain if we could, but we can only do it to people who come before the board and are asking permission for something, so that's why it only happens to them.
But what I'm worried about is that, and it's a very fine line, but that we don't create a disincentive to come to the board.
Well, I understand, but they offered it, so why wouldn't we take the
Right, I
advantage
said it might not
of
be
it?
specific to this
Yeah.
particular
Right.
applicant, but it is something that worries me. That if you come here and you end up getting a lot of restrictions, and your neighbor
Right.
doesn't have them.
All because you came before us for
Right,
something.
what kind of, I mean, is that helping us in our mission to have them
Yeah.
more unified?
Well, the only time that anyone has quote-unquote restrictions or what we call conditions placed upon an approval is if, they're here asking for relief. It's because they're either non-compliant with something that's in the ordinance, whether it's a bulk standard, a use standard, or they're requesting a certificate of nonconformity, like the applicant is today. What the applicant is looking for the board to do is to establish what is that farm use that is going to be moving forward from here on. So you've heard about an alpaca farm that was there, you've heard about other things that were grown on this farm. What type of farm was there? And it's really the applicant that is suggesting these limitations on this farm in order for this farm to continue. And so the applicant is helping the board define what it is going to continue if the board grants the certificate of nonconformity.
And there was, when the ordinance was crafted, there was a lot of environmental study that was done. And the fact that the ordinance says that a farm has to have at least 30 acres on the mountain when it's only 10 in the valley is a reflection of that environmental analysis. And that was determined to be the carrying capacity of the land if you're going to put a farm on there. So, I'm not prepared to second guess that at this point.
And I do have the purpose of the ordinance that changed or clarified or added to the Sauerland Mountain District, and this was an ordinance, I believe, in 2005. Elena sent it to me, and part of it says, existing farming operations are allowed to continue. However, new farms or the expansion of existing farms is discouraged, especially if it would require irrigation or include animals. So these are new farms including animals, not existing farms or expansions of farms. Now, this is neither, but what this is it is a farm that doesn't comply with the standards, the conditional use standards in your ordinance. So you have to try and establish what is this use? What is this farm? What was it and what is it going to continue to be? So that's what this board is tasked with doing today. So, to your concern, some people don't need to come here because they fully comply with the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm just talking about perception. When you drive around,
Yeah.
driving to that farm, you'll see a very large horse farm right on your way to
Right,
it. So-
right. And if that horse farm is 50 acres and they comply, they're allowed to be there. And they comply with all the conditional standards and they can be there. This is a little bit different. They don't comply.
No, I understand.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anything? Do we want to make a motion and
Yeah, I mean, I'll move that, that we approve a certificate of nonconformity for the farm to continue with agriculture and up to 7 horses, conditioned upon an appropriate manure management. However you want to word that.
I
You get
just
stuck
don't
with-
see why we're specifically saying 7 horses. Where does that number come from? Just because they
came from
said
the
7?
It came from
The
them.
Came from
applicant.
the
There's no
applicant.
basis on it. It's just a random
it's-
number that they said.
But it's not
What
up
if
to,
that person wants to put in another pole barn and house 4 more horses?
well, that would be a problem for me, because that's
It just-
they're intensifying the use. That's not what they're at. They're not asking for a more intense use. They're asking for us.
They did mention expansion though, with the possibility of an expansion, so. what if these people wanna come in and she's a veterinarian and she has 5 horses and someone wants to bring 3 sick horses over, they can't?
Well, just to be clear, if I could, we're not asking to undertake the veterinary use on the property.
Right, right.
She has a site, a commercial site where she undertakes her veterinary practice. So this is was presuming it's those individuals who are currently interested in the property. That is the veterinarian I'm referring to, and she has a commercial site off-site. This is strictly for their home. They have two little children, and they have pets. They have horses for pets, and with respect in particular to them, we're asking for up to 7 horses. Is it conceivable that if this sale doesn't go through, that another interested party may want more? It's conceivable. It's conceivable. We're not insisting that just to be clear, we're not insisting that the board limit us to 7. We have a basis for asking for 7 because that is what we would like to be able to provide for these individuals who are currently interested in purchasing the farm. But, the board obviously has to do what the board thinks is right. I mean, we would be open to more, but, we're telling you what we feel we need, candidly.
I agree with you on this, Mike. There should be some sort of substantiation for whatever limit we impose, rather than just that's what the possible buyers might want. So I think Francis said it, and I looked it up before. The average in New Jersey is about 1.5 acres per horse. To be respectful to the Sourland, if we double that and call it 3 acres per horse, I have 24 preserved acres here, divided by 3 acres per horse, give them 8. Or if you wanted to go 2, which is still more than the statewide average, we could do 12, and 12.1 of a horse, if you want to get specific about it. So those are the numbers I would throw out as if we wanted to have a tangible foundation to why we're saying whatever number we're imposing.
Except I don't know if your calculation is accurate relative to the environment of the Sourlands. Because personally,
yeah.
I mean, frankly, when they approved, when the Sourland stuff came through, I thought they shouldn't allow horses at all on the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So they were very careful, with what they did.
They do allow horses without any overall restriction in our ordinances, right? That's all I'm saying. I have no problem with the limit. I just think it should be higher than just the bare minimum of what they're asking for, especially if the person's a veterinarian, and especially if we don't have anything specific on the books. That's my point.
It's my opinion that there should be no limit at all. They should just have a well-defined management plan governed by the SADC or whoever. And if they want to have as many horses on their property, that's really up to them. But 7 is better than none, for sure. So I'm not going to stop anything.
Well, if the motion doesn't get a second, then somebody else needs to make another motion.
Can we just add as a condition of approval an updated survey and a updated bulk chart?
I was just going to say that.
Okay, I want to make sure we
What's
get
the
that
point
in
of
there.
having them go buy a survey when they're not going to be building anything or requiring anything? Isn't that just going to make them spend more money?
I think from Elena's report, correct me if I'm wrong, there have been certain modifications that have been done on the property, minor in nature,
Right.
but they are not shown on the survey from 1999. And anyone who buys new property is going to have a survey anyway, so they're going to pay for a survey. So if we could just get a copy of that survey for the township's records, I'm kind of a stickler for that in my towns, only because it's so hard to know what's expanding, what's being built, what's being added when we don't have accurate surveys. It's really hard to gauge.
I would agree.
So whenever we have the opportunity to get one, we should.
Can I make a motion to?
Well, there's.
Oh, sorry.
If
Sorry,
that motion died, I mean, we need to.
If there's no second, then
There's no
it
second. then
dies.
it died.
Sorry, I didn't
You
mean
can
to
come back.
jump
right?
over there.
It looks dead.
Okay,
It looks dead.
it looks dead, so go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump over top of anybody there. I would make a motion to approve what we were just talking about, but with a 12-horse limit, a new survey, and in place, as you mentioned, waste management, just as a condition, obviously, in there. Because also, to quick clarification, looking at the property on old listings from 1999 all the way up through present, I don't think anybody would want to put more than 7 horses on this property. I mean, it's such a beautiful piece of land that's down there with the, I mean, the vines and everything. I don't see anyone trying to crowd horses onto this specific piece of property. I'd be amazed at 7, honestly. So, yeah. Second? No.
I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, go ahead. Of
So
course.
it's a motion to grant the
Certificate.
non-conformity,
Yeah,
certificate of non-conformity,
Yes.
maximum of 12 horses,
Yes.
survey, and management, manure management.
Yeah, just say that they will abide by, a waste management plan designated by whoever the governing body is there. I'm not sure about that, but yeah,
It's best management, farm
practices, right?
practices.
Yeah, the SADC has
The SADC 's,
agricultural best management practices for equine.
More of
That's
just
what
a
we'll call it.
reminder in there to adhere to those.
And SADC is.
The State Agriculture
State-
Development
Got it.
Committee.
Yep, got it.
Anybody gonna second?
Well, are there concerns with, I know Tam's concerns, are there other concerns with that?
I don't wanna require a survey, I don't think they're doing any building. The new people that come in can get a survey for their property if they plan to do
That's
something.
that's what we're talking about. The new people coming in, they're gonna get us a survey.
Oh.
They're gonna have to get a
Oh,
survey to
okay.
get a mortgage. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
it's-
course,
it's-
that's what
it's
I'm
not gonna
saying,
be
I
on
thought
the-
this was
no.
kind of silly.
No,
that if
it's not
they-
gonna be on the Hawkins.
It's
No,
not
we're
for them
no,
to
it's
do it
gonna
for
be-
this, oh,
When the,
okay.
when the
We're
people,
reminded
when they
that
sell
when it
this
does go through,
property,
bring it to us.
Yeah.
they're
So I
gonna,
was
they're,
gonna say
they're,
this-
they're gonna, you know.
Condition of approval,
Condition of-
after the fact.
Yeah.
So when
Yes.
they have one, they just submit it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if there's a sale, there'll be a new survey.
Correct, correct. So Elena will be watching out for that.
Yes.
In that case, I would second that.
This is just a simple majority, not a supermajority. For non-conforming.
Yes. Want me to do the roll call?
Yes, would you please?
Okay. Did she give me,
It's going in your report.
Okay. All right, Mark Castellano's not here. Tamara Lee,
No.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
Yes.
no John Saramba, he's not here.
No.
Marnie,
Yes.
Rick Will's not here. Jackson Ryder,
Yes.
Gregory Chiacchio, Chiacchio?
Close enough.
How did I say
Yes.
it?
Cacchio.
Chiacchio. Tim Willie?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time and consideration this evening.
Thanks for coming.
What's that?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. It was enjoyable, that was this.
It's a beautiful house.
Oh, right.
Do we have to?
No, do you want me to text him?
Did I send that out?
I don't think he texts.
Yeah, no,
Rick doesn't
Oh,
He gets them, he just won't acknowledge it.
Oh, it's text.
You know he gets them, right?
I was like,
no, I realized that when we didn't.
You're welcome. Bill, good to see you, Ms. Hawkins. Good luck in your travels, man. I hope everything gets better. Yep. All right, so we did that. We did that. We're here. We're on the roll reports. How cool is that? Where was he, at the Harvest Moon, or what? Did he go out to dinner?
So it's 34. And it's got
He
multiple
knows,
fields.
I told him already,
They
Francis.
rotate through. I mean, it's enormous.
And then, I mean, if there were homes
Yeah.
all around it, but it's just.
What else
bunch
you
of
can go on
preserved
with that?
farms and woods.
Quite
We don't have a whole lot more to
So I
do.
don't see,
I mean, there's got to be, what is that, 90?
I'm curious, the next property over, how many cows they have and how much they're producing. It's huge.
Which farm is this? Lived
Well,
here
they were
since I was
happy when
born.
they
I
left,
think
so I
it's the
assume
40s,
everything
and
went well.
I'm still looking at the map and going, what house is that? I don't know what I'm looking at. Across the highway, maybe a
Okay.
quarter mile down. Yeah.
Everybody's back, ready to roll. Okay, on to oral reports. Mike, what do you have for Prospect?
Nothing to report from Prospect, we haven't had a meeting in some time,
Okay,
so hopefully something comes up soon.
okay. All right. Marnie, Environmental Commission.
Environmental Commission, we have someone working on deer, we have someone working on sustainable Jersey, we have someone working on reinstituting site visits, and we have someone working on education. So we're hard at work.
Sounds a little busy, I like that.
It's actually nice to see the Environmental Commission kind of back up and
It's
running.
a good group.
All right, so the administrators, Chris is not here, I don't have anything, so we're done with that. Can I get a motion to approve the vouchers?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, can I get a motion to open to the public, please?
So moved?
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is now open to the public. Anybody? Can I get a motion to close to the public?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence, Rick, you have your New Jersey planner in front of you. I saw it. I know
Aye.
you have it. You cannot deny it. I see it.
I am happy.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Wait, can I just
Oh,
ask a
sorry.
quick question about the correspondence?
Yes.
The people that came a year ago and can't get that deed recorded, is that an us problem or a them problem?
It's a nice problem. Our engineer hasn't reviewed the revised deed. I'm not happy about that because it's over a month. I'm gonna reach out to him tomorrow and try to get that done, but it's an us problem,
Okay,
not a
that's
their
what I-
problem.
Yes, and if we can't get that done in time, they're not going to be able to file their deed in time, within the time that they
Right, no, I
need
understand,
to.
yeah.
And they're asking for an additional extension in time because they couldn't get it,
Right.
you know.
I just
the
didn't know
correct
if they needed
approvals.
it because they weren't able to do it or because
Yeah.
we hadn't given them what they
That-
needed.
It's on Bill?
Yes, the county clerk won't record it unless it's within the time or there's been an extension.
Right.
And
Okay,
we might have to grant another extension.
okay, all right. But Rick, you're gonna speak with, okay,
I already communicated with Krista today about it, yes.
10-4, all right. Now can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, John Boy.
No, I didn't take it personally.
Good night, David.
I learned a lot. I didn't know about how many horses that
He's not gonna beat my ass outside.
They're race horses, and they were pretty great.